Awesome. Thanks, Jamie. So as Jamie indicated, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the Child Success and Class Observer grant application process, and this is the red track. So it's really the administrative side of the entire grant process where you've been participating in the training. Many of you have either come close to finishing or just finished, and there are plenty of folks that still have a number of weeks yet to go before they complete the training. But what this shows, or what we intend to show, is at least give you an overview of what the few steps are that you need to start taking right away to begin the administrative process to apply for the funds from the grant. And we'll walk through, we're not going to go into tremendous detail. We'll have that spelled out for you in a step-by-step instruction guide. So don't worry that we're not going to go into a lot of detail as we show you these steps, but we want to get you familiar with the process and help you understand what are the first two things that you can get started in right away. So we'll move on to the first slide. Basically, there are three major steps that you will need to be familiar with, and two of them you can get started with right away. The third one we'll talk about in just a few minutes, but initially you need to get started with the process in our grant portal, which is called WebAuthor. And if you're not familiar with it yet, it's essentially a database platform that you will have access to. We'll provide the link to it so that you can establish a login and submit your school's eligibility request. What that is essentially a requirement that the guidelines have established, where we have to ask you a number of questions, and you need to complete a little bit of documentation and submit it to the ELC that we respond to, and it essentially says, yes, you're qualified, your school is qualified to participate in the grant, the ARPA grant. And once that is approved, then you can submit individual applications for fund requests for each of your staff that have participated in the training. So the first thing, it's a very simple application, and I'll walk you through. In fact, let's go ahead and just take a look at that right now. Bear with me just a moment while I get it set up. Okay, do we see a beautiful picture of Italy there? All right. So initially, when you are first trying to log into WebAuthor, the first thing that will happen is you will be asked to establish a login ID. So you'll use your email address for the school and establish a password, and that gives you access to WebAuthor, which is the platform that you're looking at now. You will not see as many sections as I have on my screen. You'll probably just see three, and the first one will be called ARPA. This is the platform where you will initially start the process of applying for eligibility. Mine is a bit more complicated because I'm in the process of reviewing applications. You won't see as many colored boxes at the top, and you won't see any schools listed except for your own. So when you see your school listed, it will have a plus sign next to it. And that will happen after your eligibility application is completed. So getting ahead of myself. So the first thing that has to happen is in this blue box at the top where it says new eligibility request. That's essentially the only thing you're going to see on your screen to start with. And that is where you begin to complete your application. And it's actually not letting me because I'm on the administrative side. So I apologize for that. But let's see if I can show you. I'm not going to be able to show you a specific eligibility request. Give me just a minute. I think I actually can pull that off.
Ron, there was a question in the chat about how do they get to that page? I believe it's talking about accessing WebAuthor. Will we have those directions also into, because I know we created how to access WebAuthor directions or an email that we sent out to the other training track.
Yes.
Would we just include that in this email tomorrow, later today or tomorrow to them?
We will. The link,
Okay.
and now do you see red track instructions on your screen?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so this is what you are each going to receive. There will be a link to this guide, and this walks you through the process of establishing your eligibility request. So the link to get to WebAuthor is here. So I know this looks like a lot of detail, but if you read through it step by step and don't skip anything, you will find everything that you need. So when you click on this link, it will take you to WebAuthor and it will ask you to register. So if you see this red arrow to the right, that shows you what the screen's going to look like when you register on WebAuthor. You'll put in your name and your email address and click register, and it will go through and ask you to establish a password. And once you've registered, you will be all set to start the process of logging in to submit your eligibility request. So as I scroll through, these are the same instructions you will find. You remember that first screen I showed you a couple of minutes ago with the picture of Italy on it? All that you're going to see is just probably two buttons at the top. One will say ARPA, one may say My Profile. And when you click on ARPA, that's where the red arrow is pointing. That's that eligibility request button that I showed you just a couple of minutes ago. That's what you're going to click on to start your process. It will ask you to submit some school information. First, it will ask you to select your school from a list. This is super important. Please don't just add your school in. Your school is already loaded into the system, so you should be able to find it. If there are any problems, let us know, but we've not had a problem yet. So click on the drop down and select your school, and it will pre-populate a number of the fields with the information that we already have from EFS Mod. So this is essentially what the application will look like once you get into it. It will ask you a few questions, what type of provider you are, what type of facility you have, and it will ask you a few qualifying questions that we're required by the grant guidelines to ask. The next step that is just super important, and it is one of the things that has caused applications to be returned for correction, and that is that we're required to request from you some banking documents for the school. There are 3 documents that we need you to upload, and again, this is for the school, not necessarily you personally. They are a new 2023 W-9 that you can access from within the application. So at the bottom of my screen, you'll see this right-angled arrow here. It points to a gray button that says download W-9 and DD template. When you click on that, it will download to your computer the W-9 form to be completed and a direct deposit form. We need both of those forms completed after January 1st, so we can't use one from last year. It has to be a new one. And we need a copy of a voided check or an ACH form for the school. Now, there are some grants where payments are made directly to the school. That's part of the reason why the grant guidelines set up this requirement that we ask for those 3 documents. There are many schools where the grant payments will go directly to the staff. Regardless, we still need this information. So We ask your patience, and please understand that even though we may receive that from you, we may not use it if you're not participating in a grant where the payment goes to the school. But we still need it in order to approve your eligibility. So again, 3 documents: W-9, direct deposit form, and a voided check or an ACH form completed by your bank. Then you will be asked to sign. There's a spot for your signature and a few more survey questions that we need to ask from you. And that's it. Then you click Save and Submit, and it comes to us. Usually within a couple of days, we are able to review the applications. If there are any problems, we'll return it to you with an explanation. If not, we will approve it, and we will send you an email that says, congratulations, you've been approved. And depending on the track that you're in, you will have links to the next steps. So if you are in the red track, it will give you links likely to these instructions, so that you can continue the process when your training has been completed. So that's step 1, completing your eligibility request. So you've completed it, you've submitted it. We've then responded back and said you're approved. The next thing that happens is whenever you or your staff have completed training and you receive your training certificates that I'm going to let Jamie talk about in just a minute, then the next step will be to submit fund requests. There is an in-between step that you actually can do right after you get your approval. And that is to provide information on your estimated participation by your school in the grant. This was actually something that was set up early on. So although we have some data, we still have to fulfill these requirements for the grant. So it is a simple process that starts on that main page that I showed you. So if you look on these instructions right here, it shows you a replica of a beautiful day daycare and preschool. And if you click on the plus sign beside it, what you will see is a series of gray buttons. The first gray button is for the blue track. It's called Educator Director Requests. It would be nice if they were color coded, but they're not. So this is why it's important to realize what these are. The second one with this big long arrow pointing up to it is the Child Success and Class Observer. That's where you start for the red track. And that is going to lead you to this section where all we're asking you to do is complete a few questions regarding the number of participants that you expect to have completing the red track. So it's not necessarily what you initially signed up for with the red Google form, but it's how many people you believe will be completing the red track. So when you click on that button, it's going to take you to a form where you enter your most recent class score, which should be below 5, which allows you to be qualified for the red track. And then it brings you to this page. Now you won't see these red boxes, but all it is a series of questions that says, would you just give us an estimate of number of directors and number of other employees that will be completing this training? Just follow the directions in each one of these red boxes. It's just 4 questions, and chances are, unless you've been notified that you are participating in something other than this first section, it's just going to be the first couple of boxes, and then all you will do is answer a few more questions and save and submit. It's a very quick process, but why this is critical is you can't move on to the next step of applying for funds until this is completed. So you want to make sure that, again, going back up to the beginning, this second gray box, and I know you can't read that. Here, I'll go up to the first one. Child Success and Class Observer, that's where you start. Once you've completed those questions and submitted it, and we've responded back to you with an approval, the third gray box is going to become accessible. Right now, before you complete that second gray box, you can't get into the third one. So that's where the money is. So you want to make sure that you complete the first, the child success and class observer section. And then when you are ready, when you've completed training and you have certificates, then you will be able to start into the child care supply building section, which I will move to now. There it is, the third gray box. And that's where you actually will start the process of entering in each employee's information and submitting their documentation. The employee information that's required is some basic information that I'm sure you have on your employees, but here's the key. Those 3 documents that you needed to submit for the school, the banking documents, the W-9, the direct deposit form, and the ACH or voided check, we need one of or each of those for each employee. So each employee needs to provide you with those 3 documents. They also, of course, will need to provide you with their training certificates because you will be the one that will be uploading that information when you're submitting for their fund requests. So this is a section where you add in each person's name and you will indicate what grant they're participating in, which likely will be the professional development bonus segment 1. Directors may be participating in the class observer director training track. And then a bit of information about the employee. At the bottom, it's going to ask for the banking documentation. And then as soon as you select, actually, I think show you this live.
And real quick, just to clarify that, Ron,
Yes.
everybody is under professional development segment 1. The only way you would add anything under professional development segment 2 is if you've received an email from me. And that also goes with the director observer training. That is something separate that you would have already received an email from me. So most likely all of you are following under the professional development segment 1.
So that's this first box. So at the top, you can see it says select existing staff or add now. And right now I've only got some test people in there, but if you want to add someone, you click on add staff and it brings up a window so that you can start adding in information for a particular employee or yourself. And then down at the bottom, this is where, remember I said you could download the W-9 or direct deposit template. And then once you've got those ready, you can click on choose file right above it and upload that information into the system. Again, don't worry right now about how did I get to this. You are going to have those step-by-step instructions. They will have screenshots. So you'll be able to go step-by-step through this process and navigate your way through it. It really is easier than it looks if you follow the instructions. What Jamie was just talking about is once you then have entered your employees and say, I select Ron Test 1 here, then I select which bonus opportunity Ron Test 1 is going to be applying for. When I click on Professional Development Bonus Segment 1, it brings up a section down here that it describes what that bonus is, and it allows me an opportunity to upload the documentation for that particular bonus. This is not where I'm putting in the banking information. I already did that when I entered in the employee's information. This is where it's time to enter in the training information. Jamie, did you want to talk about the training certificates at this point, since we're at that part in the discussion?
Yep. And I was just trying to reply to a couple chats, but I'll get back to the chats. Yeah, so this part of the training, like I said before, the staff who did infant, toddler, preschool, class group coaching, also known as MMCI. All of that's done through Teachstone. We were the trainers, but everything's set in their system. Right now, we thought, because they changed it before, if someone finished the class, we could mark them as complete, and then they could access their certificate. Even if they weren't complete, they could still access a certificate. They changed that. So now what's happening is all 40 people or all 20 people who were registered for the class have to finish before we can mark it complete for them now to get access to their certificate. With that being said, we have many people who need a makeup session still, who are kind of, we're trying to figure out, how can we get them a certificate, or how can we verify that? But then just to know, until that whole training panel is complete, they're not going to have their access to their certificate. And I can see, like, this could be end of June, because there's some people who just started training in April that go all the way through June. And like I said, the makeup sessions, they're coming. The goal was 2 weeks ago to have makeup sessions on the books, but it was a little more complicated than I was expecting. So we by the end of this week, I should have makeup sessions set, probably sooner than later, so we can hurry and check off the training panel. So kind of just wait a little bit on that. Now, some of you as directors also took that training, same situation. As for the second option, or that was option one, our class group coaching. Option two was the leadership track, which that had some independent online through Teachstone, which whoever took that, I think there was 3 or 4 classes. Those certificates should be accessible if you've completed those. Then there was 2 Zoom classes, I believe, on this track that needed to register and take. Some of those have already been done and completed, and we have some still scheduled through, I think, middle of June for those. If for some reason you as the director were not able to get into the classes, we have space open. And so you can email ARPA help desk number 2, ARPA help desk 2, and just mention that, and then we can send over the registration. Because like I said, we have extra space, so we'll be able to offer that. So those certificates, as you complete those classes, will be available. So some people you should have, but then the staff not necessarily. And I believe, Ron, this is very similar. If the people who took the leadership option, if they have all their training certificates, they're able to upload it here, correct?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, so we just need to kind of figure out the Teachstone thing and have them try to figure out that system. It might just be waiting. So it would be really important to get those step 1 and step 2 completed in at least the web author system. Then you have that done. Also, just a note for the W-9s, I may have spoken to some of you. When your staff give you the W-9s, it's really, really important that every section is filled out, that they have the 3 documents, the W-9, the direct deposit that is attached, and a voided check or ACH from the bank. If any of those we don't have, we're going to have to, and I see Ron has a PowerPoint part for that. Would be helpful if you could do just a skim, one more set of eyes looking at it prior to us getting it, because that could delay the payment of the fund or the bonus. So
let me just add on to that. When the W-9 is completed, I will tell you, and actually some of you I've talked with on the phone, here are a few things that will cause it to get kicked back to you. And if it's kicked back to you, then it delays the payment to the grant recipient. On a W-9 form, right at the beginning, after you indicate the person's name, there's a section 3 where you have to indicate whether or not it's a sole proprietorship or an individual. You know, if it's one of your employees, obviously that's just going to be an individual, but we received a bunch of W-9s where a selection was not indicated in section 3. So we've had to send it back. Or someone signed it, but they didn't date it. So we have to make sure that it's signed and dated. So it's not, you know, it's a very simple tax form that just requires that section 3, their name, a signature and a date, but we need to make sure all of those are completed. The ELC direct deposit form is also what's available to you on the web author site where that gray button was. Remember, it said W-9 and DD form, direct deposit form, where you can download that. Again, it asks for your banking information and it asks for the bank information and a signature for the person whose account we're talking about. So please make sure that they sign it and that they indicate their routing and checking account number and the type of account. Again, I'm telling you these things, it's a lot of details, but when you see the form, you'll realize every line needs to have something in it. So just, if you would, eyeball it just to make sure that they completed it correctly. And then either a voided check or an ACH form. If they don't have a checking account, and a lot of folks don't have paper checks any longer, then they can either go to their bank and ask for an ACH form complete to regarding their account, or they can oftentimes download one online from their bank. It may be termed a direct deposit authorization form. The key is that it has the bank name and logo, the person's name whose account we're talking about, a routing number, and an account number. Those are the things that have to be on that form: the bank name and logo, the employee name, and the routing number and account number. Our finance department has to match up that information with what's put on the direct deposit form. So if any of those items are not complete, we are required to reject it and return it back to you. And it's a little bit more complicated to modify your application. So it's so much easier to get it right the first time. So if you would, take a moment before you submit and look at the documentation to make sure that they're correct. The other thing that has caused us to return applications has been that the documents were not legible. We can receive all different types of documents. It can be a Word document, it can be an image, but please make sure that you look at the image that your employees have provided you. Sometimes we've gotten the 20,000 foot view image of a check. And so it ends up being about that big and we're not able to read it. So if you can't read it, we can't read it. So please take a look at the documents that you're submitting for yourself as well as for your staff before you do. And that goes for the class completion certificates as well. Usually those you can just download from Teachstone, but just in case, just make sure that they are legible. And we will go to great lengths to try to make sure that we can read them. But again, if you can read it, we should be able to read it. Number 2, when to submit your fund request. You can do those once you've passed that second step that we talked about, where you've completed that eligibility or the section where you indicate the participation, and we've sent you back an approval. At that point, if you or you have someone that's already completed the classes and you have received the training certificates, whenever you receive that, you can go ahead and submit the fund requests. You don't have to wait for everyone to have completed everything. You can do them one at a time. You can do them consecutively, however you would like to do it. You don't necessarily need to wait. But again, if you complete those first two sections soon, and you can do that just today, in the next 2 days, you will have that done so that when you do complete the classes, or your staff does, you've already got that behind you. It's much quicker because remember, each one of those processes, you have to do something, then we have to do something, and that takes time. So if you want it to go quicker, go ahead and get those first 2 sections done. And we will get that link out to you in an email so that it provides you with the step-by-step instructions that get you into WebAuthor, shows you exactly the process that you need to go through. And then lastly, every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m., we are online on a Zoom call. This one, in fact. So if you save this link, if you need to jump on and you're stuck, you can't find something, you're not sure where to go, all it is, there are no presentations, it's just us. We're there to help you. We can get you to share your screen, show where you're at in the process, and we'll walk you through the steps. Sometimes just WebAuthor is no different than any other application. Sometimes it's not that hard of a process. It's just knowing where to go, just like anything else on the computer. The navigation is the key to WebAuthor, and once you learn it, you'll be fine with it, but the first steps are sometimes a little confusing. So we're happy to help you if you want to jump on our Zoom call anytime, every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Don't hesitate. So Jamie, anything else? Want to open it up?
Just Ron, real quick to clarify, there was a question in the chat. When
Sure.
you're filling out this first part, the eligibility request, that is the center or family child care home banking information, the very initial one. And then the individual teachers and staff is step 2 or 3. But that initial one is the center's information.
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? I promise you it is easier than it looks, but just be patient. It's a lot of information that's in the guide. And if you just take it line by line, step by step, look at the images, we've taken a lot of screenshots, it should show you exactly the process to go through. You really can't break much in WebAuthor. And if you accidentally submit something and it's not complete yet, just let us know. We'll find it and we'll send it back to you. One important thing to know is that when you have control of your application in WebAuthor, we can't do anything with it. So once you click on that save and submit button, then it goes from your bucket to ours. Now, you can't do anything with it once we have it because we don't want you changing anything while we're in the process of reviewing it. So once we review it, if there's something that we need you to adjust, we'll send it back to you. You have control over it, and then you can make adjustments. And we'll provide that information. If there's something that wasn't quite right, you will receive an email that outlines exactly what it is you need to modify and how to do it. We'll provide those instructions in that email as well.
So I just dropped in the Zoom link for our office hours, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 1:30 to 2:30. That's the same link all days. And then if you guys have questions or need assistance through ARPA help desk, the number 2 is you can email any of the ARPA help desk. We all monitor it, but the 2 is specific for this this training track.
Also, just a reminder, remember that we also have a couple other grant options for anyone that started after July or on or after July 1st of 2022. We have the recruitment bonus and the health and safety bonus. So if you have anyone that started on or after July 1st, they're eligible to receive those bonus opportunities. And we can provide you with more information about that. It's also, remember, you go to the ELC website, elcpinellas.org. You can click on ARPA grants, and you'll find down at the bottom 3 tabs, blue one, a red one, and a purple one. All the information you need to know about those health and safety and recruitment grants is in the blue tab. And there's also a link to step-by-step instructions on how to apply for that and the documentation that you're required to have in order to get those grants. So remember those. Those are a nice little bonus for some new folks that you might want to include. Yes, if you selected the red track, can your new hire still take part in the recruit and train? Yes. Those are the two bonuses that I've talked about. Now, you're not going to be doing the blue track class bonuses. That's the training. You had to choose between red or blue, but the recruitment bonus and the health and safety bonus are available to everyone, regardless of whether you selected blue or red. Okay. Ashley, did that help? Hopefully so. All right, great. Any other questions? Chat away. We're here to help.
All right, so there was someone asking about their web author approved application, if it's in the red track. So we would probably have to look that up. It's Catherine Louise knows, so. We'll have to look at that.
I'll have to look. Catherine, if you would send an email to ARPA Help Desk 1 at elcpinellas.org, that would be great. Then I can have an email to respond back to you, and I can take a look specifically just to make sure that we're on the same page.
And then Yvonne, they're going by the score that in January when the initial ARPA application had gone out. Those are the scores we're going off of.
Ashley, regarding hours, you asked what document can we upload as proof of hours worked for staff. Actually, you're just going to sign an affidavit that indicates what this is in regards to is the recruitment bonus. So part of the requirement is that the employee has worked at least 120 hours since July 1st of last year. So all that's required is you have to answer a question that says they have worked at least 120 hours since that time, and you sign it. So it's an affidavit that indicates that they've signed it. So you don't need to submit a documentation for that. The documentation that we need for the recruitment bonus is a background screening that shows that they have a hire date. And this is important because if you've got an older background screening that was done perhaps when you were just about to hire them, it may say determination made, but it doesn't say hire date. We need a background screening that shows hire date and the name of your school. And once we have that, then they are eligible to receive that bonus. It's that easy. On the health and safety bonus, all we need is the DCF transcripts that shows that they have the clock hours that were required. For a center, it's 45. For a family child care home, it's 30. So that's all we need as documentation for them to receive that bonus. So you, Ashley, you don't need to create an affidavit. The questions are actually embedded in WebAuthor, so you'll be asked that question as part of the process of going through the application.
There was a question on here about the school, if they qualify for the performance bonus. I think, Catherine, that's where you were going with. So if the performance bonus, if you qualify for that because your school made that increase, we're working on the finalization of that process. We know like these few pieces were first, and that's kind of at the end part. So once we get the specific detail for that on what you need to submit, we'll submit send you an email with step-by-step. Just to put that out there, because all of you are on the red track that does potentially could meet this. just a reminder, it's for anyone who was, who participated in the training. So I believe we might even do it internally, but we'll check on that process and then send out the information. Let's see.
Also, the just a reminder, the background screening, the recruitment bonus that I was talking about, that's $500. So that's a quick, easy $500 for someone. And the health and safety bonus, where all we need is the DCF transcript showing they've completed the 45 clock hours, is $700. So that's $1,200 that's available, and it's a pretty easy opportunity. So it's not one or the other. If they've got the documentation, you have the documentation for both, they can get both. Other questions?
Just to clarify, I've been doing a direct message, but it might be in everyone's thoughts. So I'm going to just put this out loud. So there's segment 1, which had 2 options: class group coaching, MMCI, or a leader track, which was the online courses and 2 Zoom Teachstone trainings. All of that is considered professional development segment 1. Segment 2, if people asked, are the same thing, but it's just they took one or the other, or vice versa. So segment 1, 2 options. Segment 2, the same 2 options. The class observer training was a separate director only training that was requested at the beginning from very few providers. And actually a lot of the providers just were checking all the boxes, not knowing what they were signing up for. And that is a separate thing for just directors. It's a 2-day full day training from 8:30 to 4:30. And like I said, there were about 20 people out of over 1,000 people taking training that requested that. So if you did not get an email from me specific about May 19th and 20th, then you don't need to worry about that. And yes, some of it is director and some not, but if you want to ask more clarification, because then I can look up your training track and specific, then you can send an email, so then we can track it and let you know. But so you're really all focusing on segment 1.
Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but Ashley was asking about completing the 45 hours after being hired in. And as far as I understand,
July
if
1,
the employee
yeah,
was hired July 1 or after, if all we need is a transcript that says they completed their 45 hours.
I believe so.
Did they start the 45 hours before or after? I don't think the transcript's going to say that. All the transcript is going to say is that they completed it. And we just need to know that they were hired July 1 or later.
Correct.
So, and then they should be fine. Let's see. Catherine asked, does the upskill director bonus get forfeited if we're on the red track? So I'm assuming she's asking about the blue track upskill director bonus.
Yeah, who is that for?
Catherine she told us, I'm sorry, I don't know all the schools yet. At Oakhurst.
Oh yeah, Oakhurst. So I think your school might be one of my special situation schools. So we can take this offline and have a conversation about that. I did put my email in there, or just send it to ARPA help desk too, and then let me know when a good time to call you back.
And Meredith was asking, are directors still able to sign up for this? And I'm not sure what this you're referring to, if you're referring to the recruitment and health and safety bonuses, or if you are referring to the red track.
Yeah, if it's the training has been, for this track, training was started the first week in January. So everything's kind of just been going. The class group coaching and MMCI, if they haven't done it already, then there's not really classes. They all started, all the cohorts. We had 8 cohorts. So 8 times 40.
She said they started April 15th. She just indicated they're
Okay,
taking the
so
red
you
track
just
now and
started.
started April 15th.
Oh, you're doing the Saturday one. Yep. Okay. Yeah. So the classes right now are full. I have 40 in all of them. So unless I know of people who can't do it and they've dropped out, classes right now are full. The only thing where I could potentially look is that leader track, because there's most of them are online, and then there's the 2, but once again, it's limited capacity in each class. And Teachstone requires us to give a 2-week notice. We have to submit the class rosters 2 weeks ahead. So it's very limited. We're like at the final stages. So I'm not sure that I have space, but you can send an email and we can take a peek at that.
Catherine, thank you for your comment. She was commenting about how detailed this is. And believe me, those of us that have gone through this on the administrative side, and Jamie, I mean, it is, you know, you would think that people that write grants would be a little kinder in how simplistic they make it. I think they really tried to, but it ended up being much more complicated than I think they originally intended. So, but we appreciate your patience in letting us try to help get you on the right track and get you through the administrative process. And we're sorry that there's so much involved in it, but it's also a nice benefit, and we're happy to help in any way we can.
Yeah. So after this meeting, I'm going to work with Ron, and we'll gather all the attachments and links and everything, so we can just send one email with all of the information. That we should be able to send it out to you later today, definitely by tomorrow. I just want to make sure we include everything. And like I said, email's the best, just so then we can either schedule a time to talk, or we have some tracking and follow up. And then if we have to attach anything, it's a little simple than that. So I didn't see anything else come in to the chat, but you are free to have the rest of your time back, and we'll attach the links and everything to the follow-up email.
Thank you all so much for joining us.